Welcome to the Tone Lounge Podcast, the definitive music industry and gear podcast with Jonathan Guillemette and Frank Fleckenstein.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this very first episode of the Tone Lounge Podcast news. As we said in the last regular episode, we are going to keep the news episode separate. So this is going to be the first one. I'm Frank, I'm your host, and with me is my good buddy, the Duke of Oxington, Sir Jonathan Guillemette. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing fine. How are you doing, dear sir?
Yeah, not too bad. It's I'm saying it was with like this sort of voice because a lot has happened while the two of us were sort of off from recording podcast episodes.
Yep.
So let's dive into a couple of things that I picked out and I thought were kind of worth looking into. I think one of the things that happened very early on, and I think we are late to the party, but I want to talk about it nonetheless. So shortly after you went back to Canada, the news broke out that Fernandes Guitars filed for bankruptcy. I don't know if you heard that.
No, I hadn't.
You have not. Okay, so let me show you. Oh, I'm sorry. I have a little technical issue here, but with sharing my screen. There you go. Screen, window. There you go. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So as I said, that happened in July. And the headline reads, Fernandes Guitars files for bankruptcy, says it's become impossible to continue doing business. The Japanese guitar company, known for its Gibson and Fender replicas, has supplied many big name artists over the years, including Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong. And it's true. It's a company that has a very long history. As the article states, the company existed since 1969. So it's not like it's one of these companies that, was founded like 10 years ago or something and now sees like, okay, doesn't really make sense to make guitars anymore. The company has announced that it filed for bankruptcy. Best known for its lines of Fender and Gibson replica guitars and Sustainer electric guitar pickup, because that's something that, even people who are not too much into guitars, but a little bit, when they hear Fernandes, they kind of, they have this pickup that kind of works like an EBO.
Yep.
The Sustainer pickup. The statement on the website reads, Fernandes Co. Limited is currently owed a considerable amount of debt to multiple creditors and unfortunately has become impossible to continue business. So they're in debt. That's shitty. Filed for bankruptcy. Creditors and business partners who have claims or debts against Fernandes will be contacted in writing by the attorney representing them in the bankruptcy proceedings. We apologize for the inconvenience and thank you for your patronage over the years. How much was the debt? 2.1 million pounds. That's considerably high. And so when this news broke out, you saw a lot of people commenting on it. I know a few YouTubers who took the news articles and kind of put them together. And it seemed like a very big deal. But if I look at it and kind of, from a kind of calm standpoint, I'm like, so what? It sounds very harsh to say that, but it's like, what have we heard from Fernandes in the past 10 years? Have you heard anything?
Oh, I'm going to be honest with you. They were kind of out of my mind. Like I thought they had gone out of business, to be serious, to be honest with you. I didn't hear about them. It's not like they had like a lot of people that were pushing their products on social medias or anything. So I wasn't even aware they were still doing stuff.
Exactly.
I figure if I do a lot of gear related stuff and I wasn't aware, pretty sure like most people didn't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that and the article says, they essentially made replicas of Fenders and Gibsons. And I know that in the 70s they did that very, very accurate. So they were like very true to detail when it comes to those replicas. And then it also says Billy Joe Armstrong has proudly paraded his Fernandes Revival RST50 based on the Fender Strat on stage for years, having owned it since the tender age of 10. So exactly the same thing. They sort of kind of had a revival in a way, because this guy, still used one of his first guitars on stage, and it happened to be a Fernandes, which was a Strat copy, because we know this guy played Strats and Les Pauls and whatnot, and that gave them sort of a push. But other than that and the Sustainer pickup, I have no idea what Fernandes did in the past 10, 15 years, like at all.
No, it is the Sustainer pickup. Is that the Sustainiac?
No, the Sustainiac. No, I think the Sustainiac is a different one.
Is it a different one? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Because I remember like the guitar player from Typo Negative had a Sustainer in his guitar, but I don't know if it was a Fernandes guitar. So there was a few players. I remember a few key players, but I mean, I couldn't name you like 5 people that played Fernandes. Like I have no clue who their roster was, like who was in there.
Yeah, would be sort of let's see. Now I'm writing Fender. Fernandes Sustainer pickup. Sustainiac versus Fernandes. Okay, so apparently these are two different things. Yeah. I'm not sure. If you put that in here, you can't even find the Sustainer pickup anymore. Is that some sort of music shop selling one? Oh, not available anymore. So apparently they don't do that anymore as well, which is yeah. But it's like, if your business model is to make sort of copies or your own version of known known guitar models. You know how many people do that? So many people. Make guitars that look like a Fender Strat or a Gibson Les Paul or a Gibson SG or whatnot. And some of them are getting sued by the big companies, some are not. So it's like...
Yeah. Well, I may be wrong about this, but there was a time, especially in the 60s, where Japan was really big on creating like replicas of famous American guitars. And eventually Gibson was one of the people suing some of these Japanese companies.
Yes.
You can find like really old Ibanez that look like Fenders or Gibsons. Eventually they found their footing, they changed their approach, and perhaps Fernandes didn't grow in that direction. Maybe they just kept making that, but just changing the headstock or whatever.
Yeah.
So that might explain why they haven't really differentiated themselves as a Japanese company. Like, you know, if you look at Yamaha, you look at Ibanez, companies like that, they have their own thing, their own line, their own guitars that are very recognizable. And as for Fernandes, I couldn't tell you a model that's unique to them. I really can't think of one. Same here.
So that's why I didn't understand the fuzz around it. I mean, we've seen, especially in the past 2 years, we've seen businesses, stores go out of business, and they weren't the only company to fail in this industry, because it's very, very difficult to stay relevant. It's just it's very difficult these days. But yeah, I just thought we touch base on that, and I'm happy that I'm not the only one who thinks like Fernandes. What have they done the past 10, 15 years?
The only thing, like when you said Fernandes, the only thing that came to mind is I remember when I was in my teens, I had a Guitar Player magazine, I think, or something like that. It was one of those magazines. And there was a Fernandes guitar that looked like the biggest fucking clown show you've ever seen. It had like a built-in speaker in there. And I think the picture had, if I remember correctly, I think it was Paul Gilbert playing that guitar. And I remember thinking like, why would anyone play a guitar that has a shitty little speaker in it, right? But it was one of those things that Fernandes did. So I was like, okay, so whenever I think of them, that's what I think of. And then I think of their sustained pickup, But model...
Those are the exactly. Those are the two. I have like, I don't know anything. I've seen a couple of Fernandes guitars, but most of them, most of the guitars that I saw when I walked into a store were like, old models, vintage models, or some of these lawsuit guitars. But I've never seen like a Fernandes guitar, like a new Fernandes guitar that was like that kind of catched my attention. So.
Yeah, me neither.
In the meantime, and not so long ago, essentially like 2 weeks, and we had the mini camper that we spoke about some time ago, and now Neural DSP sort of got in the ring with a similar product. So their Quad Cortex has been a huge success in the world of amp modeling and capturing stuff. So Neural DSP came out with the Nano Cortex, which is the whole thing, but like squeezed into a smaller box, more friendly to people who need to be even more compact on stage. Let's see. Neural DSP has just entered the Stompbox realm with the Neural DSP Nano Cortex, a compact yet powerful amp and effects processor packing the much larger Quad Cortex top-tier sound into a pedal that fits your hand. So I'm not sure if they use the same processing power. I have no idea. And it also, I don't think it doesn't say. It just says like 2 gigahertz of Shark DSP power for quality tones. I'm not sure how that compares to the large version, but essentially the feature set seems to be sort of the same kind of thing where you can use captures and you can actually use this thing to capture. I've just seen a video from Ola England. Kind of capturing an Boss HM2 into it.
Okay.
Sounded great, functioned very well, was pretty easy to set up. And so now the question, what does it do? Okay, neural capture slots. Oops. 256 neural capture slots, 256 custom IRs, and 64 presets. Well, 64 presets should get you, through.
Look, anything short of 65 presets is bullshit.
You're right.
Yeah.
Let's trash this product.
Yeah, let's just hit it.
What else? 64 presets. Dual foot switch controls sound settings easily. USB-C functionality. You can use it as an audio interface. That's nice, especially for the size. If you want to record shit on a laptop. Gapless switching between 4 presets, etc. 2 pre-FX block, adaptive gate and transpose, neural capture, doop. What else? Edit, organize. Okay. Obviously, you have some sort of an editor. Makes it easier to, program all of that stuff. There are already a couple of guys, a lot of guys actually.
Yeah.
The question is the price. I would assume it's somewhere along the lines of the Kemper. What was that? Let me see. So Nano Cortex. What am I? I'm not typing well today. Nano Cortex. What's the price?
It's a second episode. Let's give ourselves a little break here.
Yeah. So 569 euros in comparison to 1,586 euros for the big version. So that's like 1,000 euros of difference, which is, But then again, yeah, you don't have a display, you don't have a touch screen, you can't use this thing like an iPad to, do stuff. And what was the small Kemper called? Kemper Player,
I think it was a Kemper Player.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a bit of controversy around the Kemper Player lately too.
Really? Why that?
Yeah, apparently if you want to get the update, you have to pay for it.
What?
And it's not a small fee.
How, you know how much it was?
If I remember right, it was something like $200, maybe more.
No.
Just for the update. Yeah, it's like
for an update?
You shouldn't have to pay for an update. That just doesn't make sense to me.
And also it's more expensive. So the Kemper Player is 700. So and it also doesn't have a display. Maybe it has more knobs and whatnot, but yeah. So, if Neural has definitely achieved one thing that's like beat them to the price. I found another article that kind of asks the question, which one should you choose? The big one or the small one? What is this? That's Guitar World. And let's see if we can find some sort of like overview. Okay. So here's like a comparison sort of list. Obviously the price is a huge difference. The Neural has 50 plus amps. The Nano has 25 factory, 256 user. That doesn't make sense. It's like that would be more. You have considerably less effects. If you look at 70 plus and 5, you have 1,000 plus IRs, and you have 10 factory and 256 user IRs. It's like, man, when it comes to IRs, it's like once you found the ones you like, I think you can narrow it down to less than 10, to be honest.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Easily, in a lot of cases, you don't even need more than 5. You're fine with...
if you're using that many IRs, get yourself checked. There's something not normal with you. That doesn't make any sense. No, that's too many.
So the big one has a looper, the small one doesn't. The big one, as we said, has a multi-touch screen. The small one doesn't. There's no Wi-Fi in the small one, which, who needs Wi-Fi and an effects pedal, to be honest? Because they both have Bluetooth. Yay!
Yeah.
And then the weight. That's interesting. So almost 2 kilo for the big one, 2 kilos, and 0.6 for the small one. It doesn't seem to be that much of a difference if you look at the size comparison. This Nano version looks so much smaller, yet 600 grams. So
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Connectivity.
Who do you think? Who do you think the Nano version is intended for? Because the way I'm seeing it right now, just looking at the stats, It looks like the bigger version, the Cortex, would be for someone who wants that all-in-one solution. So the pedal does everything, while the Nano seems to be a little more like the Line 6 HX Stomp, where you would have that being like the main hub, like your, I guess you would say like your amplifier. And then you could use other pedals with it. So it wouldn't be like the end-all, be-all pedal board. It'd be just like part of your other pedals. Do you see it that way?
Yes. I think there is I think you're right. I think that theory makes a lot of sense. But I think we can even take it to a way more profane sort of level. I think it's, I think it's intended for people who don't have the money to get the big one, but they want like at least some chunk of the feature set, the capture technology. And I mean, since everything, like all of these things work with an editor. So in the end, it's for average Joe, what's the difference? They can still get that same sort of sound out of it. And since the small version has, and in looking at the data, it tells me that the processing power is obviously less, might be just a third of what the big one does. So to me, that's just like, okay, that's why there is a limited capacity for stuff to load into, such as effects and whatnot. And then if you look at the connectivity, I mean, that's the story. Input, output, expression pedal, headphone out, as they said, USB-C for some sort of connectivity. And then it says there is a Combi XLR input side of the unit. Okay. So it has more connections on the side.
Okay.
Yeah. So it says, obviously, if you're going with pure numbers, the Quad Cortex takes the win, obviously. But then again, if we look at the price difference and the form factor, it's intended for people who want some of that feature set, but they're unable to pay, what did it say, $1,850? Which is, it's a steep course. I mean, it's a lot of money for someone who, maybe just plays at home.
Yeah, for sure. And there's if we're to look at it from a different angle, if it's not just about money, it could also be about the feature set. If you don't need everything that the Quad Cortex gives you, right? If you're just using a very minimalistic approach, maybe this makes more sense. Like, I know that if you gave me the choice between, let's say, the HX Stomp and what's the bigger one from Line 6?
Oh God.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how much I care about it.
The Helix.
The Helix, exactly. Yeah, so let's say the Helix and the HX Stomp. I wouldn't need the Helix just because it's got so much that it can do that I will never use. Like, I love the more tactile approach of just like getting down, just hitting a few knobs and that's it. I don't need like to feel like I'm in Star Trek and I'm looking at like the dashboard of a spaceship kind of thing. That's exactly. Not me. But for those that need all of that, that's great. So, but I find that the problem with companies is that they still have this approach where you have like the luxury item and then you have like what the poor people can afford. I think as long as we keep this approach in the music business, we're shooting ourselves in the dick because everyone's fucking broke. The guy that just bought the Helix isn't more rich than the guy who bought like the HX Stomp. One has more room on his credit card. That is usually the fucking difference. Yeah, right?
It's true.
But as long as companies keep this approach where this is like the luxury thing, this is our flagship, and this is just a little thing for the peasants. If you approach it this way, it's not the smartest move. But what I'm seeing here is that they're not doing this. Their approach seems to be, if you need all these feature set, you get it in the flagship model, but you can still get like really a powerful unit with great features for less money. You're going to have less features, but it's still great quality. That's what I'm seeing, and I like this approach much better than, okay, this is like the bottom of the line kind of thing. Just if you're poor, just buy this. And oh yeah, don't expect it to sound too good, because if you want the good sound, you need to buy the big one.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be the case here. What I can definitely see happening is as soon as this thing hits the market, you might see prices of the Quad Cortex on the used market coming down a bit.
Yeah.
Because now, like, people can afford that sort of technology and the feature set they need, and people who want to get rid of theirs, they probably can't ask that much money for it anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything else that stands out of here? Sounds
I think one of the things that does stand out to me is for the price point. You have the capture feature with the Nano, while the Kemper player doesn't have it, as far as I know. You have to get your captured sounds and load them on there.
Gotcha.
But as far as I know, you can't capture sounds with the player version.
So it's like a playback machine, essentially.
Yeah, but basically it's like you load your presets and you can go to town and play your gigs and all that. But as far as I know, unless I'm mistaken, the player doesn't have the capture feature, while this guy does for less money. So that's something else to consider.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. If the Kemper doesn't have that, then that's a big miss on their end. And it seems to be a good move from Neural that they apparently waited with the release. If that was intended, I'm not sure.
Yep. But if I'm mistaken, someone please correct me in the comments. Just let me know. But from the top of my head, I remember that was, it seems to me that used to be one of the features that people were complaining about, like no capture. I might be wrong, but we'll see.
Right. Of course, no episode can go by, especially no episode where we talk about news, where we have to look at ridiculous stuff that Gibson does. And I've actually found another ridiculous, after we had the Jeff Beck Les Paul for $10K.
Yeah.
Where Jeff Beck's widow actually, gave credibility by, working together with Gibson. I'm not sure what happened here, but Gibson launches the BB King Rumble in the Jungle 1974 ES355. And of course, it's from the Gibson Custom Shop. Where else? Of course, only 100 guitars will be made, featuring premium appointments and a Murphy Lab light-aged walnut finished.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the story of this one? BB King's performance at the Zaire 74 Festival, which took place September 22nd to 24th in the Stade du 20 Mai in Kinshasa, Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo. By the way, every time you hear Democratic Republic of in conjunction with a country that's in Africa, it's horseshit. And that doesn't come from me. It comes from a guy I've recently listened to a podcast where the guest was a guy who traveled to like pretty much all the African countries, and he said, there are places that you don't want to be, and he named the Congo as one of those places where it's like, and there's nothing democratic about this country. But that's a different topic. So BB King apparently played that guitar during that performance, and that's why it's so iconic.
So if I'm not mistaken here, I think this is the guitar that he used on Guns N' Roses. You know that song, Rumble in the Jungle?
That's
maybe
the one.
I'm thinking, I think that's the one, right?
That's
Rumble in the Jungle. What
Rumble
the
in
fuck
the Jungle.
name is that?
Rumble in the Jungle was also the name for the boxing fight between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman.
Okay.
That also happened in 74. So, but it's like I can kind of foresee, and I don't have a glass, glass bowl where I can look into, but I kind of foresee that the price of this is going to be ridiculous. Oh, it's $10,000.
Chump change.
Snapper, man. Get it now.
Fuck him. I got 2 in the cart right now. I'm just about to hit the buy button.
So what does it come with? Leather strap, obviously. Murphy aged gold hardware. T-type custom bucker pickups. Varitone switch.
You lost me
so
there.
essentially, it's a BB King guitar with like some aging and what else? And like this nice finish and like a couple of these little extras made in the Gibson custom shop for $10,000. Let's see if we can still get one.
Well, I got 2 in the cart right now, but you said those pickups. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm going to go for it.
Let's see. Oh, you can still buy it. Unbelievable.
Fuck. Okay, you buy one, I'll buy one, and then we can do an episode on it, right?
Let's see. Yeah, you can actually still buy it. Hey, and you can pay it with Klarna, which means you can pay it in three rates. Yay.
3 easy installment of whatever.
You know what's interesting?
3,000. Yeah.
You know what's interesting? When we checked that with the Jeff Beck Les Paul, it was already all sold out.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about, BB King signature guitars? Are they not as, desired as Jeff Beck's signature guitars? What's going on here?
I'm gonna venture a guess and say that it's probably the proximity of Jeff Beck passing with the release of the guitar, so it was still fresh in people's minds, as opposed to BB King, who's been deceased for many years now, and probably not as hot topic, if you will, as Jeff Beck passing. It's kind of like when Eddie Van Halen passed away. All the Eddie Van Halen gear just shot up in price, right?
Yeah.
So people were like, "Oh, okay, I have a 5150 head. It's the letter block, whatever the fuck there. I'm gonna put it like for $3,000."
Right.
Oh, they were 800 yesterday. What the fuck happened? Oh, the guy died. Yeah, but they don't make these. They haven't made them since the 90s. What the fuck are you talking about? Right? They all shot up in price. Well, someone's trying to redo the same thing with BB King, but maybe it's not as apropos, if you will.
But it's like, so for me, the bottom line is, it's, man, we all wonder why, Gibson has a weird reputation, and we kind of look at their standard line and we think like, why is this stuff so expensive? It's like nobody can afford that stuff anymore. And then you look at all the other shit they do, and it's like, that's why, it's,
yeah. I used to be a hard fucking core fan of Gibson, but Gibson is kind of hit or miss. It depends who's the CEO of the company or who's the owner of the company. Right. Sometimes they make really great stuff, and other times it just completely missed the mark. And stuff like this, I mean, it's relevant for dentists and maybe like lawyers and shit, but for the average gigging musician, looking at this, we go, I'm not going to go play $100 gig a night for the whole band with a guitar that just cost me $10,000. Like I don't even see it as an investment, right? So you're going to pay $10,000, maybe in 20 years it's going to be double that price, maybe, but that's not like, you're not like a real estate tycoon because you make that kind of investment. You're never going to get super rich doing this. So it's just, again, Gibson kind of creating that, that elite tier for those of you who can afford it. We made this master crafted guitar, but most of us have a hard time buying bacon. So I'm not going to go buy that.
So So for all you lawyers and dentists out there, enjoy your BB King rumble in the jungle guitar. Which brings me to
No, I was going to say, look, we pick on those guys once in a while, but I really appreciate dentists. They're fun. And lawyers, when you need them, they're expensive. But, I do appreciate those guys. So don't feel bad if I'm picking on you. You just make way too much money compared to me. And, I can't afford the BB King 1974 Jungle in the Rumble Guns N' Roses guitar. I can't.
Yeah, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible, at least to some of us.
To most of us.
In my next life, I'm just going to be a pilot or something. Somebody who makes like shit ton of money.
Yep.
And then every time I have 3 off days somewhere, I'm just going to buy a guitar every time.
Yeah, just be like Joe Bonamassa without the talent,
Exactly. Which brings me to the last article that and this one is not like making fun of things, just like I think I found the topic really interesting. I haven't read it yet, but it's something that we spoke about a couple of times in past episodes, where the sort of headline is like, does where a guitar is made really matter? And apparently they were talking with Paul Reed Smith, because obviously he has a lot to say on that topic. And he said, for us, import guitars started when Carlos Santana asked, Paul, can we make a PRS that's much more affordable for all the students that talk to me about owning one of my guitars? I said, sure, I'll get a prototype for your approval. When we brought him the prototype, he was impressed, and his comment was, this was made in America, right? And I said, no, this was made overseas. The contract for his approval was on the table, and he leaned over and signed it as fast as he could. It was a good moment for him and my company because our integrities were on the line, and we had a project we thought was a real instrument. And this is obviously, that's a while ago, but essentially a lot of, PRS has done that to a very, very good amount. I know that their SE line is among the most sold guitar line, especially if you look at the price range, like up to €1,000. We know that the Silver Sky, the PRS SE Silver Sky, is one of the most sold guitars of the past 2 or 3 years even.
Yeah.
They have been doing pretty well, and they're not the only company. They're not the only company who has, after struggling in the beginning, now established very, very good production lines, and they bring great quality at a great price.
Yep. Here, if you don't mind, I'll show you something that is really relevant to this. It's a guitar that I've acquired lately. It's made in Indonesia, and as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the best guitars that I own. I'll show it to you in a second.
Yeah. Okay. Sure thing.
Okay, so this is an Indonesian-made Fender.
Oh, this one. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know this one. So mahogany body. So all mahogany. It's a set neck. Well, it's glued, but
yeah.
Okay, kind of like a Gibson. It's got really good tuners on it. Fucking great action. It comes with, I think it's the Seymour Duncan 59 in the neck, and
JB4.
What is it? The
SH4.
The Billy Gibbons model.
That's called. That's the SH1.
Yeah. So absolutely stunning guitar. It looks great. I grabbed it. I was like, okay, I never heard of this model. Started playing it, and I was like, oh, what the fuck, dude? My search for a Gibson SG has ended. Like, I've been looking for one for years. Grabbed this thing. I was like, I don't need an SG. This is the guitar I needed. It's light. I think it's like 6 pounds. Plays fucking fantastic. Made in Indonesia. So I think, yeah. Does it really matter where it's made if it's a great instrument?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. So the article goes on by saying, I've always believed that it's not about the country that an instrument is made in. It's always about the skill level of the guitar makers, which is true. However, we have to kind of like bake in the factor of like climate definitely has to do with it. You know? So climate is one thing. See,
that's cute.
we'll cut that part out, obviously.
Well, yeah.
So sorry for the short break. So yeah, we have to kind of bake in climate as well. And I remember that when we talked to what was his name? Kenzo? No,
Kenzo. Yep.
Kenzo. He kind of confirmed that, you know, being in the Philippines, like, oh yeah, it is totally difficult to build guitars at that climate. And some of those companies, especially the Asian ones, have overcome that by like really controlling the climate all along the way in the factory, where they store the materials, when they bring the materials in, to make sure that there's like a certain consistency. So that has improved a lot, definitely. What else did they say? Years ago, I visited Fujigen Gaki, which was one of the original manufacturers for Ibanez and overseas built Fender instruments. They also made George Benson's archtops. I was impressed. When I was a child, Japanese manufacturing was known for making cheap transistor radios. Now, instruments made in Japan have real cash. No. Not because the country they were made in changed, but because the guitar making skill level has gotten so much higher. Fujigen at the time when I visited was an extraordinary guitar making facility. PRS models could easily have been made there, and I knew it when I visited. So, yeah, it's kind of... I know that there's still this sort of tenor of people saying like, oh, it's made in the US, made in the US, it's made made in North America, you know, it's made this and there. You can apply that to everything. You know, it's like with German cars. Oh, it's a German-made car, you know. Although most of the shit they put into those cars comes from other countries anyways. It's assembled in Germany. It has been designed by German engineers, yes. But is all of it completely made in Germany? No. And the same goes for guitars made in the US. Does all the wood grow in the US? No, of course not. This is all the hardware made in the US? No, it's not. There's a lot of hardware from companies that make their stuff overseas, you know?
Yep.
So since that has changed, and some of these companies, and I've seen them myself, you know, I've been to Roxy Music in Indonesia once, and it's like these guys have, like, the facilities they have is impressive. It's absolutely impressive. And they do some stuff. They do Schecter, they do Chapman, they do the premium line Ibanez guitars. And those guitars easily sell for like what? 1,500, 1,400, 1,500 euros or US dollars. And I believe for some time they actually did the Strandberg guitars, like the and some of those Strandberg models, they're like 2K.
Yeah,
like they sell for 2K,
really expensive,
and they're made in Indonesia. You know, they're made in Indonesia, so and people buy them. So I think if the quality is right and you like the instrument and the instrument kind of clicks for you and you feel comfortable, you don't care. You don't care anymore if it's, you know, if it's made in the US or if it's, you know, made in Germany or whatever.
German engineering.
So, like, as outdated as, you know, German Efficiency. That's a myth these days. Total myth. But but yeah, looking at that article and the message that Paul Reed Smith is like trying to bring across, I think he's right. It doesn't matter. I've recently played a PRS SE Silver Sky, like used, hanging around in the store for €600, and it's bloody amazing. It's a bloody amazing guitar that even with the stock pickups, like the first thing that like people swap out when they buy an affordable guitar is the pickups, because they you can kind of do a lot, and change the sound of a guitar a lot. I like this guitar as it was, like no need to change it really. Sounded absolutely amazing. Which brings the point across. It's I agree. So I don't think this is a thing anymore. For some people it might be. Some people might still be like, no, I want to buy an original US guitar, whatever. Most people don't.
We're seeing a bit of an evolution in this kind of like back-ass way of looking at gear, where now it's like anything made in Japan is whoa, now it's respected. But I remember like back in the 80s, Japanese stuff was seen kind of like how we look at stuff that comes from Indonesia or China or Malaysia or whatever. It was seen as like, there's going to be some poor ass quality, because 20 years before, so in the 60s, a lot of like really cheap guitars were coming out of Japan. But Japan ended up getting so much of an influx of gear they had to build for North America that then they were sending some of the stuff over to Korea, and then Korea started to have some really great factories where they were making guitars, and then they just keep expanding and they're reaching all over the place. So now it's like the guitar I just showed you, that Fender, it's made in Indonesia, and I'm not modding it because the pots work really well. It's got the treble bleed mod, and it's got great pickups. No need to modify it. So I just bought it, and I can play it as is. Yet I have a brand new 2024 Fender Professional 2, and I changed the pickups because I wasn't the biggest fan of the noiseless ones. So I changed the pickups on it, and that one was like $2,400. So, it's like I just paid $2,400, and I still felt the need to change the pickups. I paid $800 for the Indonesian made one, and I didn't touch shit. So, I think it's starting to raise the bar. And I think like the mid-tier stuff is starting to catch up slowly in the mind's eye of most musicians, that they can be good instruments. They might not be a great investment compared to the stigma that comes with like buying American stuff, but you can get a great Mexican, like the Mexican stuff now is seen as really well made. You talked about the Player 2 series. The price keeps going up on those. I think the EVH guitars, some of them are getting made there.
Yeah.
They're great guitars. And they're made in Mexico. Some of them are made in Indonesia. So,
and the Fender US factory and the Mexican factory, which is in what's the place called? I forgot. But they're 60 miles away from each other. You
can take the bus and go from one place to another, right?
Pretty much. So it's like, So I firmly believe that, especially today's guitar players, especially the younger ones, they don't care. They don't care.
I don't think they do.
The variety of brands and their assortment of instruments is so wide. They have so much stuff to choose from. And as soon as they find the stuff that, like the guitar or whatever they buy, people are buying iPhones. iPhones are made in China. People have accepted that. And iPhones are fucking expensive. Yes, nobody's complaining about that. Mac computers are made and assembled in China, and they're expensive as well. Nobody's complaining about that, because Apple has managed to establish a quality regime And also, once you're like in their ecosystem, it's pretty hard to get out because it's very convenient.
Yep.
So, and I think the same thing in a way happens with the guitar. You find the guitar that you like, you're comfortable with it, and you play it. And maybe at some point you notice, oh, this is made in Indonesia. Okay. Oh, this is made in Korea. And then it's at that point, it's just a side notice. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's what we call perceived value. It's not so much what it's worth, but what is it worth to you and your philosophy, right?
Exactly. Those are great words to close this very first news episode. It's about what it's worth to you personally, and what it brings to the table for you. It's not about, if you still feel the need to show off because it's a US brand and you want to show, you want to go to band practice with your lawyer and dentist friends and you want to show them your $5,000 PRS, go for it. It's your money. But everybody else, keep in mind it's what it's worth and brings to the table for you, not for anyone else. This was our first news episode, and I kind of like this format. Keeping it short. We can do more episodes this way, and we can kind of time them. Maybe bring 2 episodes a week, or if we do need to make a break, we stay with 1 episode a week, but we'll have more material, which is great.
Exactly. More content.
Awesome. We hope you guys enjoy this new format. Let us know in the comments if we keep it this way or if you prefer the old format, although that means longer videos, which we're trying to avoid. And until the next news episode, thank you for watching and we salute you.
Cheers.
Cheers.